Don't mess with me, pork chop. What day is this?
It's February 2nd. Groundhog Day.
You know, I thought it was yesterday.
Oh.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and I haven't really done a Rona update for the comic book industry in, a few days now, but we have some information to talk about, and with me today is the proprietor of Fantastic Comics, Yul Carter. How you doing, buddy?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you joining me to talk about some of this very interesting information. Of course, we all know the industry is at a standstill. Most comic shops can't even be open right now because of the states that they're in. Diamond Comics distributors are shut down because all of their warehouses are shut down. They can't really deliver new comics, but I guess they are doing some reorders right now, and some shops are getting reorder issues. But we do have some information about a possible date when Diamond might start delivering comics again. In comicbook.com, they announced Diamond is letting publishers resolicit some previous material for the August catalog. The root cause for this August timeline has been a new policy Diamond has handed down that allows publishers to delay any book that had previously been solicited for release in July. Some have taken this to mean they're able to push back solicitations until August or another time that best fits the publisher's schedule, while others suggest it's still completely unclear when Diamond will be back open for business. I'm more in the secondary category, but there's also an article out there from bleedingcool.com stating that maybe new comics will be coming out in May. What are your thoughts on this?
I am more on the second camp also. I am unclear. I just looked at Diamond's site today, and it is true. They are accepting reorders. So if you're a store that's open and you do well with graphic novels, or there's there's issues that you need, you can still get them. But I don't see going forward when we're going to actually be able to get comic books. I saw the August thing, and I also listened to Perch's video that he made, and there's that suggestion about May. But I thought if they're publishing comic books to come out, and New York and California are not open for business, then why would you even bother? That's just going to piss everybody off. And New York and California, not to brag or anything, they are a large amount of the market. Them and Chicago and Texas, right? These are the four states that have like some of the bigger companies. And I just, I don't know why they would even go ahead and publish comic books. I guess if they wanted to put out the ones that were already in the warehouse, that'd be fine. But again, if August is when they're shooting for, there's going to be months in between where there aren't books. Goodness gracious. This is a mess.
It is a mess because they do have warehouses full of brand new comics that haven't been delivered. And it's not just like 1 week's worth of comics. It's a few weeks worth of comics that would need to be distributed. So they'll need to time it up where the solicitations get out. And then the mechanism, the printers start rolling off. They start receiving the new product as they start rolling out the stuff that they already have. So there are a lot of moving parts in this. And I don't see anything that says, new comics are coming in August. If they do start soliciting in August, they should start coming in late June, maybe early July, because of the amount of comics that they have right now. And maybe the country does start opening up again in May, and some of that new comic starts get rolling out. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to get ironed out. And you're right that, California and New York are a big part of that. You have Midtown Comics out there in New York. California has some of the largest comic book stores in the nation. Can you even start, rolling out these comic books if you don't have those two markets open for business?
If publishing comic books actually makes them money, then there's no way they can do it because they aren't going to be able to get the money from those stores in those states. Man, I just don't see that happening. As far as the books that they have in their warehouse, I assume it's about 3 weeks, maybe a month's worth of comic books. I really think it's 3 weeks. They're going to have to really time it up well. And if everything ends in May and we get to open up and everything, there's going to be a long delay in between for comics. I mean, that's just the reality.
People might not be taking this in consideration. Printers are backed up right now because the amount of availability on printers has been scaled down to all these places closing up, saying that they're non-essential businesses. To get those new comics back on the printers and rolling out, we don't even know when that part is. That's another wild card. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month. You just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. I don't think anyone can honestly say, even within a 2-week time frame, that this is when comics should start rolling out.
Right. I think most printers for individual issues are either in America or Canada. Collections are usually printed up in China. Now, China, I hear, is going to be opening. I mean, even schools, I guess, started in the beginning of April. So those things might be up and running. And if nobody gets sick again, then at least the trade paperbacks will be coming out, the collections of materials. So that kind of like leads into your ICV2 article, right?
Perfect segue into the next article that we need to talk about from ICV2.com, where they're talking about, yes, new comics aren't rolling out as far as floppies, but graphic novel sales are taking place. And basically every major publisher except for Image Comics and Dynamite are shipping out at least some graphic novels or trade collections out to market. Of course, Scholastic and Viz are seeing a huge influx of sales because they're basically on schedule and everything's going out because they are already, outside of the Diamond Comic, distribution model. So everyone's kind of going around that and using, traditional book shipping methods to get out into market. And really the places that have been, have seen the most benefit of this, Barnes & Noble, I believe, has 120 stores open nationwide, but it's Walmart and Target that are seeing seeing a lot of extra business because they're considered essential businesses because they sell food. So a lot of people are getting their graphic novels from Walmart and Target right now. Amazon, which delivers a ton of graphic novels, they're all backed up right now with shipping delays because graphic novels aren't considered like essential goods and services. So, there's a lot of instability in the market, but at least something is getting out there in the form of graphic novels.
At Fantastic Comics, we have specialized in graphic novel collections, trade paperbacks, whatever you want to call them. It really doesn't matter. We get original graphic novels, which might be like Scholastic, and then, all the regular things. And then we also have other things that are like nonfiction, historical stuff. These companies still coming out with their materials. If we were actually open as a comic book store right now, we would be doing fine in that regard. A lot of our money comes from first day comic book sales, without a doubt. I mean, every store should be able to do pretty well on Wednesday. Where I make my money, especially in a store that has a lot of money dedicated to rent, I need more bang for my buck, and that's where graphic novels do really well for us. Manga, all the Scholastic you're talking about, but it's more than just Scholastic because there's all ages materials from First Second, a company called No Brow. These are Abrams does a bunch of stuff also. Comic books are out there for all sorts of people, without a doubt. You remember the days when there was like a Borders or a mom and pop store, and I don't know, man.
Amazon has completely just decimated them.
It really has. And I've seen a lot of sales of back issues on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube even. People are having auctions, and they're meeting people that are outside of their, normal sphere of influence, if you will. Comics are still being purchased, but people haven't been walking to the store for a long time, I really believe. Even movies have been in a decrease for a long time now. People don't want to go out as much as they used to.
Lone Star in Texas, they have a huge e-commerce site, but they also have a huge presence on eBay where you can go on and they have multiple avenues where you can go in and view their comics and order directly from them. I imagine they also have Comic Hub, which is an app where you can go in and see the inventory of the shop and order it directly like that and have it shipped to your house. But I think you're right. We are moving to an e-commerce world. Amazon is absolutely shredded, mom and pop and brick and mortar. And a lot of these comic shops, I know you probably have seen this, where you're basically like the showroom for Amazon. Yeah. People come in and see the book they want, they write it down, and they go and see if they can get a better price.
Oh, hell, they just take a picture with their phone now and probably ordered it right then.
Yeah. It's probably like an app that'll find it for you.
Yeah. That's a bummer. That's especially when you're paying a lot for rent.
Yeah.
You just want to.
I definitely feel you. So let's talk a little about something regarding Corona that's a little bit more uplifting. There have been a couple of artists out there, specifically Rob Liefeld and
Jim Lee.
Jim Lee at DC Comics are doing original artwork right now, and they're auctioning it off basically every day. There's an article in the Hollywood Reporter where they're saying Rob Liefeld basically sold one of his sketches for $2,300, and then I believe the next day, Z Comics Lair, a local comic shop owned by what's his name? Where's Patrick Zambrano, actually had the money the next day, and he was shocked that he was able to get that money. What are your thoughts about some of these comic artists going out of their way, taking their time, taking some of their original artwork, and donating the money or the proceeds to comic shops?
I think it's pretty cool. There is an element of charity. Obviously, it is charity. And I know that sometimes I feel like I personally don't like that. It's probably, the pull myself up by my bootstraps mentality type thing that doesn't always want to tell people when I'm hurting or anything like that. So for these artists to just come out and do this, I think that's a really good thing that they're doing. There's nothing negative. I guess the one thing I would say is how are they coming about, with the stores that they're choosing to help out. I know a lot of the Rob Liefeld ones are probably in like his area, which is cool. Again, you should really help out your backyard first, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But there are smaller stores that sometimes won't be ever known, and $2,300 for them might be like 5 months worth of whatever. So that's the only negative I could have with that. If I have to even pick at something, it would be like, who are they choosing or how are they going about choosing what they're doing? But there's no negative. I would rather have an X-Men Jim Lee page though.
Well, I know Jim Lee's proceeds, they aren't going directly to comic shops. They're actually going to a charity that benefits comic shops.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, DC Comics donated $250,000 to comic shops nationwide. Not sure exactly how that's being distributed, but there are people out there really going above and beyond. And the charity that Lee is giving it, or Jim Lee is giving to, is called the Bink Foundation. I think it's great to see the community coming together and some of these great, well-known artists kind of doing their part in helping out comic shops, because a lot of people are hurting right now. I'm sure Rob Liefeld could use some of that money. So for him to go out there and take his time, draw a sketch, auction it out there, and not even take a cut of it, send it directly to a comic shop.
And this is more work than Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld normally do in a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jim Lee's doing a sketch a day for 60 days.
I would say that is really good, and it helps comic book stores. But what actually would help comic book stores more is a year consecutively of Jim Lee on a comic book. That would be better.
Yeah.
I think.
Absolutely, him on a Batman
well, he's doing 60 pages. I mean, they're not full art or anything like that, but if you took those 60 pages or those 60 art pieces and put them into comic book pages, that'd be like 3 months worth. Well, bi-weekly, that'd be like 3 weeks of comic books.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, everything that's happening, but I'd rather see these artists kind of going ahead of it, trying to help these shops out, and then all of a sudden, here in a few months, there's going to be some GoFundMe pages trying to save comic shops. And
yeah, I would suggest find out if your comic book store. A lot of people ask, what can you do for your comic book store? And there's talking about buying stuff or gift cards and things like that. Maybe even better than that, find out if they have a Patreon page or a GoFundMe or something like that, and help them out that way. It's really tough to tell people you need help sometimes. So if they've done a GoFundMe page, definitely think about helping them out. But if they're providing a service that they could do like a Patreon page, you might think about that also.
One of my suggestions was that, if you're on eBay and you found that comic book you really like, call your local comic shop, tell them what the eBay price is, with shipping, see if they'll match it.
Oh, I like that.
You can keep your money, in your community if you can. If there's a trade that you've been looking at for for the last 3 months, but you just, your new comic book day, dollars were too tight. There's no new comics right now. See, maybe you can go pick up that trade or something and just, try and keep the money in your community if you can. Obviously, everyone's struggling right now, across the economy, and we're all going to have to band together and do what we can to get us all through this together.
Yeah, band together and demand returnability, comic book stores, because the only thing I fear is that when we get back to selling comic books, you got to order every week. You got to be ordering. If you're going through different channels, you're going to be ordering even more than normal. And you're not going to really, it's just going to be the same business as usual, other than, you're just spreading yourself too thin. And if we can't have these comic companies responsible for what they're putting out by making them at least, in the very least, returnable, those comic book companies allow Barnes and Noble to return comic books, but they don't let your local comics shops return comics that way. So like Diamond takes returns from Barnes and Noble. They'll take returns from Walmart, but they won't take returns from the stores that have been dealing with their crap for a long time. So, and that's Marvel, DC, Diamond, every company that we all have to demand better, I think, is really what it is. Even from your stores too.
You know what, that is basically going to take up our time for this week's Rona update. I really appreciate your perspective and coming here and joining me and talking about some of these interesting topics. You have anything else that you need to say before we wrap this up?
No way, man. Just visit your local comic shop when you can.
Absolutely. Help your local comic shop if you can, and we'll all get through this together. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.